Welcome to True Crime Chronicles. When his phone unexpectedly rang while he and his partner were in bed, he didn't need to be informed of who was calling. Moments after, when he kissed his lover goodbye, his lover was violently killed by two gunmen. The man knew this would happen because his lover was a loose end, and even though he loved her very much, it was nothing compared to the loyalty he had for his boss. Hi guys. Today, we'll be talking about the highest ranking hitman for Pablo Escobar, and this is his life's journey. But before we get started, make sure to press the bell icon so you won't miss any other video, and stay till the end. This man was John Herrero Valquez Vasquez, better known as Popeye. He was born on April 15, 1962. In contrast to other cartel hitmen, Popeye grew up in Yaramel, Antioquia, a village 50 miles from the infamous city of Medellin. Popeye wasn't exposed to the drug trade when he was younger, but he was a well-known troublemaker who had a morbid fascination with guns and a reputation for putting violence before anything else. When he was 12 years old, his parents finally relocated to Medellin, and Popeye enrolled as a cadet in the police academy of the Colombian National Army in an effort to slack his thirst for violence. However, that wasn't enough for him, so he got enrolled in the Navy. The Colombian Navy is where Popeye got his nickname because of his physical strength and facial features, which were remarkably similar to the fictional cartoon character from the 1920s. Popeye would later undergo plastic surgery to change his appearance, losing the distinctive look, but he retained the nickname for the rest of his life. Popeye wouldn't last long in the Navy. "I was just interested in shooting people to death and getting an adrenaline rush. But because the Navy only had outdated wooden boats and not the warships, it too became insufficient for him." Popeye finally started hustling and living on the streets when he was just 16 years old. When he was 17 years old, he first met Pablo Escobar, who launched him into a life of unspeakable brutality and his first murder. Popeye made his first kill when he was barely 17 years old. In an interview with Boca magazine from last year, he stated, "I don't feel anything, and I haven't lost any sleep over the acts I've done." Pablo Escobar was so impressed by young Popeye's special quality and appetite for murder that he decided to keep the youngster in his care. On the other hand, Popeye started to develop feelings for the drug lord. After his first kill, Papa realized he had the stomach for murder. He always looked his victim in the eye and he felt nothing, according to his own words. What sets the man apart from the other members of the cartel is the extensive publicity he received from around the globe. Many people were quick to become enraged by the documentaries, interviews, book deals, and even television shows that Popeye participated in after being released from prison. If you're curious about his victims, the list is extensive. But some of his most infamous crimes include the abduction of Andres Pastrana Arango, a candidate for mayor of Bogota. He was also directly responsible for the abduction and murder of Carlos Mora Hoyos, a politician in Colombia who was Pablo Escobar's rival when the drug lord first entered politics. Another tragic case involved the kidnapping and unintentional death of a journalist who also was the daughter of ex-president. The assassination of presidential candidate Luis Carlos Galán Sarmiento was arguably Popeye's most well-known crime. Additionally, Popeye played a supporting role in the bombing of the Avianca airplane, one of Escobar's most horrific attacks. 111 persons were killed in the bombing. 111 persons were killed in the bombing of the Avianca jet, one of Escobar's most horrific attacks. Presidential candidate Cesar Gaviria Trujillo was targeted in the attack, but he abruptly decided not to board the aircraft. Popeye believes that because of the protection they received, politicians had it better than judges, one of which was Judge Gustavo Zuluaga Serna, who made the error of ordering the arrest of Escobar. Hitmen and motorcycles chased him before shooting him to death. It is this method, this lack of emotional connection to any of his victims, that made him so efficient and so dangerous in the past. In the late 1970s and through the 1980s, Popeye personally carried out the killings of at least 250 people, and ordered the killing of about 3,000. However, it's likely more, because Popeye himself would later say that he didn't count his victims, because he wasn't a serial killer. He was just a man with a job. As difficult as it may be to believe, Popeye fell in love with the dark, twisted beating organ he called his heart. The serial killer found a space for his only recorded love, a woman named Wendy. Despite the fact that Popeye's portrayal as an emotionless monster, incapable of love, feelings, or any other kind of human emotions has thus far been accurate, Wendy is not the only person with whom he's been known to have relationships. When Wendy was Pablo's lover, he lavished her with expensive presents and treated her to a life of luxury. But he had a stringent rule for his other women. They were not permitted to become pregnant. Wendy breached that rule though, so Pablo ordered 2 men and a veterinarian to remove her child. They drugged Wendy and conducted the abortion when Wendy was 5 months pregnant. And after this event, Pablo Escobar told Wendy that their relationship was over. A while later, Popeye and Wendy would meet in a bar. But something shocking happened that Wendy probably didn't expect. The next day, Popeye told Pablo about his relationship with Wendy, another indication of how deeply devoted he was to Pablo. Although Pablo was surprised, he gave his approval regarding the relationship, but he did warn him. Wendy had turned snitch as retaliation against Pablo, an unforgivable sin, and she was only using Popeye as a means of catching Pablo. The night Pablo called Popeye to inform him he was in bed with Wendy. Pablo tapped her phone line and discovered that she was in contact with the Search Block, a military group formed with the sole purpose of apprehending Escobar. Pablo actually gave him the order to kill her, but even though he agreed to the task, he realized that he couldn't carry it out on his own because he'd fallen in love with her. Instead, he sent 2 of his hitmen to complete the mission. They would murder the woman in a cafe, a location that Popeye had previously arranged for them to have lunch. After Wendy, Popeye had a son with a childhood friend named Angela Maria Morales, who was in love with him, but he broke up with her and moved the 2 of them to New York when the situation surrounding the Medellin cartel became too heated. Meanwhile, Wendy's death had shattered something within Popeye. In the years that followed her passing, he started to feel out of place in the cartel, and over time, he also started toying with the idea of retiring. During this time, Pablo turned himself into the Colombian government and established his personal prison, La Catedral. However, Popeye remained steadfastly loyal to his boss. He stood by Pablo during all of the happy times spent in jail, as well as when he killed 2 of his men, compelled the drug lord to escape his own prison. In 1992, after Pablo's castle of cocaine had all but fallen, Popeye was permitted to leave the Medellin cartel. With his blessing, Popeye turned himself into the authorities the following day. After confessing to all the murders, car bombings, kidnappings, and drug trafficking he'd been involved in, Popeye was granted a sentence of 30 years. After serving more than 23 years in prison and walking free again, Popeye was given a probationary release. As unbelievable as it sounds, Popeye started a YouTube channel and made efforts to become a public figure. He gave countless interviews where he described the operations of the Medellin cartel and shed more light on the drug trade. He also tried to seek forgiveness from the relatives of the victims of his assassinations by claiming that he felt remorse for his actions and was seeking redemption. In addition to appearing on TV shows like Surviving Escobar and Narcos, Popeye wrote a book titled Surviving Escobar in 2005. However, Popeye's fame would not last for long, as in 2018 he was once again in legal trouble when authorities discovered evidence that he'd been extorting former Escobar aides shortly after being found guilty and sent back to prison. Popeye learned that he had esophageal cancer, which had spread to his other organs. In December 2019, he was transported out of jail for medical reasons, and on February 2nd, 2020, John Hoyro Velasquez Vasquez, better known as Popeye, passed away. This was the life of a hitman, the roller coaster of crime and failed redemptions. That is it for today, guys. Hope you liked the video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more videos like these.